Blog Talk Radio. Hi everyone, this is Camille from sunny California, and you're listening to the Coffee Chat with Camille show, which is a podcast series that interviews various guests about real-life topics for people who love to learn. Hi, this is Camille, your host. Today's topic is the future of work or culture with Rael. Can I tell you just a little bit about him? He's known as the business excellence guy, the why. After 30 plus years, as he was a serial entrepreneur, dabbling in everything from education to finance to fitness, said, I've now made it my mission to share my knowledge and expertise with others, seeing that light come on and connections being made in people's heads as to how they can weave his experiences and advice into their businesses, reinforces that this is where he needs to be. And you can go to Rael's I think it's his website, raelbricker.com /freebook. Okay, so I actually have him on hold, and I want to go ahead and get started with our interview. Yay! Hi, Rael.
Good morning, Camille. Well, it's morning for me.
Hi.
I think it's probably evening for you.
Yes, it's the evening. I have a few questions, and so I want to go ahead and get started. What is excellence, and why is it critical?
Excellence is the best definition I've found, and the one I use on a daily basis, is that being excellent means showing up as the best version of yourself every day. And that sounds simple, and so for a number of years I was working as the business excellence guy, and I've actually dropped the word business now, because for businesses to be excellent, it's actually more about the people being excellent. And why is it important? It's important that we show up as the best version of ourselves, not as the best version of someone else. And that's probably one of the key leadership traits that makes great leaders, because they acknowledge that everybody has to be themselves, that they can't be, squeezed into a mold and a cookie cutter and everyone come out exactly the same. And, I often, joke with live audiences and ask them who's hungover, particularly at a conference. People have been out drinking the night before, and then they very sheepishly admit that they're hungover. And I said, well, that's fine. I'm not condoning drinking too much or anything like that. But what I'm saying is they've shown up. They've shown up as the best version of themselves in that state. And yes, you don't want drunk employees at work, but you want people to understand that they have to be the best version that they can be on any particular day.
Okay, excellent. And are entrepreneurs born or made?
I honestly think entrepreneurs are born. I see lots of people want to be entrepreneurs, let's call them, and they come to me for advice and consulting work as a mentor or coach. I don't particularly like the word coach. I prefer being a mentor. And I don't think they have it. I don't think they have that spark. And what is missing is they're overthinking things. Now, the book I wrote in 2018 that you mentioned, and it's in the show notes, that people can download a free copy of, is called Dive In, Lessons Learned Since Business School. And on the back of it, it says quite simply that business doesn't have to be complicated. Business can be simple. Take a breath, dive in, and adjust the course while you're moving. I think that's the trait of the entrepreneur, is that they run a spreadsheet, maybe they do a back of the cigarette box calculation, and they go, yep, that looks like it's an opportunity, let's take it. Whereas I get people coming to me and they've got 27 spreadsheets. And I say to them, well, that's 26 too many because you're overthinking things. Just do it and adjust it while you're going along. And I think that's why I'm often asked to talk at university programs and school programs on entrepreneurship. I honestly don't think you can teach entrepreneurship. I think you can teach business. You can inspire people to be entrepreneurial. Can you teach them to be entrepreneurs? No. I think that comes from the gut. That's after 30 plus years. I'd been married for 6 months, and I turned around to my wife, and I was in a pretty good job, and I said, darling, I need to go out on my own and explore the world, and that wasn't about my relationship with her. Be my own boss. And she said, sure. And, we talk about it often that, 30 plus years later of marriage, we're still married. And she's lived with an entrepreneur for all that time with the ups and downs that come with that.
Wow. And then from 6,000 feet down to professional speaker, so sorry, is that right? Yeah, to professional speaker, so sorry.
Feet, yep.
The journey.
Okay.
What?
Yeah. So, I mean, it is an interesting story. My background is engineering.
Okay.
So I did my first degree. I've got 3 degrees. My first degree was in electrical engineering. And my parents grew up in a very middle class, lower middle class, I guess, environment. And the only way I could go to university was if I got a scholarship. So I got a scholarship from a mining house called Anglo-American. And they paid for my university studies, but as part of that, I had to work for them for at least 2 years after graduation. And so I knew nothing about the bizarreness is that I went into a career at 17 that I knew nothing about. So anyway, I became an engineer. I went to work on the mines. The mine I worked at was a deep-level gold mine, and in South Africa is pretty unique. That's where I grew up until 99. South Africa is pretty unique in the respect of its deep-level gold mining. So the deepest mine that I've actually been down is 4.4 kilometers, but the mine that I worked at was about 6,000 foot down, and that was the majority of the time I spent was around that level. It was an interesting experience as a 21-year-old go-getter, engineer, entrepreneur who wanted to know. I wanted to know how my job fitted into the greater organization. So I was never really interested in just my own job. So my curiosity's always been there. And I went from working for 18 months on that mine to driving my bosses mad that I got a promotion at 18 months into the job, which was unheard of, to head office. And I moved to head office back in Johannesburg and did some project work. And the end of that year, which was 2 years of commitment, I went off to business school to do an MBA. I knew at that point that I would never work as an engineer again. I knew that I was going to be in business in some form or fashion. And so that was where the journey began. I started my first business in 1990. It was the year Nelson Mandela was released in jail, and there was a hunger in South Africa for education. And so I went from being an engineer, working in that space, to starting an education business that grew rapidly because of the need. And did we overthink it? No, we didn't. And that was my point earlier. We started it without actually even understanding the industry and went, what have we got to lose by trying this? And it grew. It was successful. We went to 4,000 students over 6 years. We ended up reverse listing that on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange and then doing acquisitions for that company, which got me into venture capital. So that's the journey. I went from this engineer to this education business to venture capital. I spent a number of years in venture capital in South Africa and then moved to Australia and did that for 2 years and listed a fund here on the exchange. But by that stage, I needed to be my own boss again. And so 2 years into migrating to Australia, I said to my wife, I'm going out on my own again. And she backed me again. And I went and I started a a finance business, which I still own today, that's done $3.2 billion of mortgages over that period. 10 years ago, 2013, I actually ended up with 2 cardiac stents while training for a marathon. And that made me see the light, so to speak. And I said, my passion is being on stage. I've sold over $1 billion of mortgages from stage. Let me pursue a career in professional speaking. And so starting about 10 years ago, but in truth, about 7 years ago, I pursued the ideal of being a professional speaker. And today I'm one of the 1,500 in the world certified speaking professionals. I still own the finance business, but I spend about 4 months a year traveling the world speaking.
Okay, that's excellent. And then how has speaking changed your life and can change yours?
So, I mean, not, you know, they say that the biggest stress most people have in their lives is having to stand up in front of people and speak. It's never been a problem for me, thanks to my late father. My late father took me to Toastmasters, which was a great learning ground when I was 14, and I was South African Toastmasters champion at age 20. So has it changed my life? It gave me the opportunity to have the confidence to stand up in front of groups and speak and believe in myself. And I think that was what public speaking did for me. How does professional speaking change my life? I've met the most amazing people around the world. I've been afforded the most amazing opportunities to speak through that. I've spoken in Kathmandu. I opened a conference in Nepal. I was the opening keynote speaker on culture. And then the next day I went to see the sunrise over Mount Everest and the 9 other peaks of the Himalayas. In 3 weeks' time, I'll be speaking in Chennai in India. I'm spoken in 10 or 12 countries at this stage, and I'm a relative newbie in the professional speaking space. So it's an amazing opportunity. It is entrepreneurship on steroids, because you're only as good as the time you're on stage. COVID changed it for me. COVID took me from being on big stages to running small workshops, a lot of online stuff. And I started spending 3 to 4 months with people online and in my classroom that I built, as opposed to, an hour on stage at a conference. And I found that incredibly rewarding because I spent time and I saw people growing. So it's been amazing to me to be able to share ideas with people, to share, what I've learned over 30 odd years as an entrepreneur about business. And for me, that's part of it at age 58, giving back to the world.
That's beautiful. Okay, thank you so much, Rael, for being my guest today. And is there any kind of social media handle that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, so, the easiest way to ever get hold of me is on LinkedIn. It's probably the medium that I spend the most time on, which is just Rael Bricker on LinkedIn. But I mentioned the book, Dive In, and I know in your show notes there is a link to it. That gives you a free... I'd love people to go to, Amazon or Booktopia and buy the book, but that's really, for me, it's about getting the story out more than anything else. And so... I actually have a free PDF version of the book at that link that's on your show notes, raelbricker.com/free book.
Got it. All right. Thank you so very much for being on the show again. And I really appreciate you and also your expertise and your sharing. And I believe that my audiences and listeners will be pretty satisfied with what you shared today. So thank you very much, and bye for now.
Wants to reach out and ask any questions or get advice in their businesses, please reach out through pretty much, there's about 12 pages on Google where I can be contacted.
Oh, okay. Great. Thank you so much again.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Bye, Rael. Thank you. Bye. Cheers. Okay, everyone. That was wonderful, Rael. He has a great speaking voice, and I loved how he shared about his marriage too. He's been married a long time. It's really wonderful to hear that. And what I did want to do is share with you all the rest of his story because I didn't. I wanted to go right to the interview and then spend the last 15 minutes reading to you more about Rael and his story. So in 2013, he was given a rude awakening when, after a season of triathlons, he had decided to run a marathon. All this was part of a plan before turning 50. Each time he ran, he said, I experienced neck pain, and it was discovered that I had 2 blocked arteries. I was lucky one as I managed to dodge a bullet and ended up with 2 stents. He just mentioned that when he was interviewing. Today, I am probably back to close to my fitness and strength from 2013, but much more self-aware of listening to my body. This experience helped me to find my purpose in life. I found my purpose in sharing the experiences of journeying and achieving excellence with business owners and entrepreneurs around the world. After 30 plus years as a serial entrepreneur in everything from education to finance to fitness, I've now made it my mission to share my knowledge and expertise with others. Seeing that light come on and the connections being made in people's heads as to how they can weave my experiences and advice into their businesses reinforces that this is where I need to be. From being 6,000 feet under in a mine, Marie just explained that, right? 6,000 feet up in my mind. I'm going, whoa, that's pretty far under there. To starting an education business that grew to have 4,000 plus students. Congrats to him. To spending years working in venture capital. I've seen it all. Oh, I've seen it all. Okay. I have listed companies on multiple international stock exchanges, and my financial services group has settled more than $3 billion in loans over 20 years. That's so wonderful. I have a diverse work history combined with unique global research interviews with companies in more than 25 countries. Taking this knowledge and experience makes me perfect to work with leaders and managers on growing and achieving excellence, as I have experienced the roller coaster myself and know how to navigate the twists, turns, and loops. If you need to have academic qualifications, if you need me to have academic qualifications, I hold, as he explained to us, 2 masters, an MBA, and an MSc in engineering, and am currently a fellow of the MFAA, which stands for Market and Finance Association of Australia. He's a certified speaking professional, as he mentioned, professional speakers in Australia. Oh, it's called CSP. Okay, so Certified Speaking Professional. And then Professional Speakers Australia. And he's a member of AICD, which is Australian Institute of Company Directors. He said, my most important qualifications is from the School of Hard Knocks. And my most important skill is being able to listen to your needs and design a solution to help you. He says, my book, Dive In, Lessons Learned Since Business School. This book, published in May 2018, was intended to be a guide for people to take my experiences and be able to put the lessons into practice. As the blurb says, business does not have to be complicated. Business can be simple. Take a breath, dive in, and adjust the course while you are moving. This book looks at 30 plus years of work and business on 2 continents, through startups to listed companies. It is a collection of business principles that underline the idea of sometimes just taking a leap of faith and diving in is all you need to succeed. Okay? So, Rael has a lot to share, and life experience with work experience and personal, but his work experience is outstanding in education as well. And so he is a force, right? And he has sent over to me his his website. I apologize. And so again, it is raelbricker.com/free book. Okay? I'm definitely going to read it. Rael at raelbricker.com or raelbricker.com. Okay? So I want to again thank you, Rael, for being on my show. You're really amazing, outstanding, and you have a great accent too. And I hope that you all learned a lot from Rael being here. I definitely have. And bye for now. Thank you again for listening out there. Bye.